Here's groups that are protesting 5G, Extinction Rebellion, blocking a Proxima store, saying it's going to be catastrophe because of the greenhouse gas emissions. Greenpeace France released a position on 5G, calling it a digital pollution that will increase carbon emissions, increase e-waste, strip the earth of natural resources, and contribute to human tragedies on a global scale. In Spain, Ecologists in Action issued a position statement. We have all of this on our website. We have impacts to trees. There's a study, radio frequency radiation injures trees around mobile phone base stations. These are trees before and after, years later. There's a cell tower over in this position. They followed dozens of trees and found damage to trees. And of course, trees are critical to climate protection and capture air pollution. And what are we doing? Here's that high school near me, Wheaton High School. Now, something people aren't aware of is that the companies themselves define wireless radiation as a pollution. This is an excerpt from Verizon Total Mobile Protection Insurance, where they exclude harm from pollution, and they define pollution as including artificially produced electric fields, magnetic fields, electromagnetic fields, sound waves, microwaves, and or all artificially produced ionizing or non-ionizing radiation and or waste. This is near me, an apartment building. This mushroom is in fact a cell tower installation. Absolutely unacceptable. The people are not informed. We have so many examples of environmental justice issues related to the siting of these antennas. Verizon warns their shareholders of the risk, but not their consumers or neighbors when they put up these installations. Here's a quote from their 10K filing for the taxes to the government. Our wireless business faces personal injury and wrongful death lawsuits related to the alleged health effects of wireless phones or radio frequency transmitters. We may incur significant expenses in defending these lawsuits. In addition, we may be required to pay significant awards or settlements. Companies warn their shareholders, but not their neighbors or the consumers who use their devices. Here's a cell tower, here's a house. People are not being informed. Crown Castle, all of the companies putting these networks up actually have such statements. Crown Castle says, we don't maintain any significant insurance with respect to these matters, because insurance companies won't insure for long-term damages, most from wireless radiation because of the risk. And they say if these emissions do cause negative health effects, potential future claims could adversely affect our operations, costs, or revenues, and you, the shareholders, might not get as much money. So there's all these white papers that deem the risk as high from wireless radiation. Swiss Re report had a 2019 paper on 5G rating it as off the leash high as an emerging risk. Here's a study. My gosh, our time is winding down and I'll just run through a few things, but this was measurements done of 5G base stations in North Carolina. And these are some images from the paper, measurements of radio frequency electromagnetic fields, including 5G in the city of Columbia, South Carolina, USA. And they did measurements and they found that the levels to people walking, as I showed you before, are very high from all of these antennas now being placed where we walk. There's a 5G, 4G antenna and people walking, and they took measurements all around. Yet we have no pre-market safety testing, no post-market surveillance for health effects, no reports or reviews on long-term exposure, no monitoring of what the radiation levels are in the country, not since the 1980s when the EPA last did a report on this. No budget, no government staff tasked to ensure cell towers are safe. And that really was confirmed in our court case against the FCC, because no federal agencies, not the EPA, NIH, not the Department of Labor, not the CDC, I'm going to talk about the FDA later, came out with, well, the FDA didn't have any reports that had looked at the issue. The FDA actually wrote a letter saying, basically, in summary, no worries, the NTP study isn't important, but there is no reports. There's a literature review that the FDA came out after the fact, which just looks at studies and attacks most of the studies that shows harm. But none of these agencies submitted an opinion on the science. There's been no systematic review, the totality of evidence on wireless radiation. No risk or hazard assessment done by any US agency with health or environment or safety expertise. And in fact, you'll often hear, well, the World Health Organization, they say it's safe, but actually, if you take a look and you dig in just a little bit, there's the EMF project. They have these fact sheets online, totally different than the International Agency for Research on Cancer. These are two separate entities under the WHO. They actually haven't done a review on this since 1993. And in fact, there are a lot of questions about who has written and why these fact sheets remain online that make it seem like safety when in fact there's been no health risk assessment since 1993 by the WHO EMF project. This is Chris Portier. He's retired director of the United States National Center for Environmental Health at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And he says, given the animal and experimental evidence, I assert that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, the probability that radiofrequency radiation exposure causes gliomas and neuromas is high. I'm going to skip over some of my other things to hop to what can you do? How do you protect yourself? Well, the California Department of Health came out with a cell phone advisory after it was suppressed for many years and had to be a lawsuit to get it out. But do not sleep with your phone in your bed or near your head, it says. It explains how children are more vulnerable and explains when phones go to high power as well, which is when you're in an area of low signal or when you're FaceTiming compared to texting. Disable the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and data options from your cell phone and devices when not needed, like the Athens Medical Association says, which has tips and recommendations on how to reduce exposure. So you want to learn what airplane mode is. You turn your phone to airplane mode and turn off all the wireless antennas, and that stops the radiation. Now, if you have to use your phone for something, don't have all those antennas on all the time blaring. You can't see them. They're very much always in use. Turn off what you're not needed. Don't put that device near your body. Have it away from your body and use corded connections whenever possible. But get to know the settings so you can turn it off. Turn it on airplane mode more. When you go to sleep, use a battery-powered alarm clock, not your cell phone. And don't charge your cell phone near the bed. Decrease those apps. Fewer apps means less radiation. They are often uploading and downloading and doing all kinds of things, even when you're not using the app. So don't have apps on your phone that you downloaded for free or whatever. Turn them off or set them to not always be updating. Minimize your overall use. Make shorter phone calls. Don't have that phone near your ear. And the Connecticut Department of Health does say, scientists also agree it is wise to reduce exposure to radio frequency energy from cell phones whenever possible. Keep the cell phones out of your pants. Make the bra a no cell phone zone. When you have large files or when you hand a child a device, as the American Academy of Pediatrics says, download the videos or whatever you're watching first, switch it to airplane mode in order to avoid unnecessary radiation exposure. Now in France, the French government has an order that you're informed that by your device to use hands-free. Children and adolescents should limit calls. Keep the equipment away from the stomachs of pregnant women and adolescents. This is my laptop and how I use it. I have it attached with a wire. This is an Ethernet. This is an adapter. I don't use Wi-Fi. I have Wi-Fi turned off on the device. And this cord goes all the way to my modem. And this way, the data, the information goes through the wire, not through my body. And that's a way to reduce exposure. You can also do it with a tablet. This is my friend's son came over, wanted to be on the computer. We just hook it up with this adapter. Now, of course, companies should absolutely be making technology far more convenient to be wired. And that's something that we're working on at the federal level. But let me just share with you the resources we have on our website. You can go to Environmental Health Trust. We have downloadable fact sheets, step to step, each step on how to reduce exposure so that you can protect yourself at home. We have flyers and cards and all kinds of things you can print out, posters like this one on how to reduce exposure. We are on YouTube. We have an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter. I know that is rather ironic, but we found that we have to get the word out to people on the highways that exist right now and how to make those technology highways safer. So you can also contact us, info@ehtrust.org, for a presentation in your town, to your community, to your local group. We will go over whatever you're interested in, the science, how to reduce exposure, how you can take action on 5G, things you need to know about cell towers. We have information on what policy is worldwide on cell towers and resolutions to halt 5G and what's happening around the world. So go to ehtrust.org to learn more.